All right, welcome everyone. My name is Coach David. I am here to talk about financial aid. We are Financial Aid Secrets. Today we're here to talk about loans and then a little bit more about real talk, okay? I thought that I would do something a little bit different today and talk about the things that I hear or kind of the conversations that I have with different parents as we're going through the financial aid process or financial aid consultations so that you guys are a little bit more prepared for your situation, okay? Now, as far as today, right? These are what we're going to be talking about, right? So we're going to give a little intro, right? We're also going to do a little financial aid news. There was two lawsuits this year, right? One's still ongoing. I'm also going to bring up some new news, right? Then we're going to talk about loans, and then we're going to kind of have our real talk situation, okay? We're going to talk about how our program can help, and then I'm going to be offering a kind of, an offer that's only good until this Sunday, right? And so if you want to have more information about that, you can stay until the end, okay? This is only, unfortunately, going to be for the people that are here today, right? I will stop the recording once we get to that point, okay? All right, so a little bit about who we are, because I do see a lot of new faces in the kind of in the Zoom room today, right? We are Financial Aid Secrets, okay? We are here every single Wednesday, right, at 6 p.m. To bring forward any financial aid issues that we're having. We also want to make sure that, you guys have the most updated information, right? The one thing that we do ask of our participants that come to our Zoom, are in our Facebook groups, are in our coaching programs, is to stay connected with us and ask us any questions you have. So if you do have questions for us, reach out in any way you can. Email, Facebook Messenger, right? Leave a comment on our Facebook page. If you're already one of our coaching families for college admission secrets, right? Please go ahead and make sure to reach out to us in the Discord. Okay. Now, we have been around here for 15 years, right? In the college admission space, right? We're going on our 16th year just in a couple months, right? And we are here to make sure that families are able to save the money that they should be saving. Okay. We want to make sure that your family gets the most value out of kind of our trainings and our services. And so just make sure that you're staying engaged with us. Okay. But let's move on to financial aid news now to talk about some things that have been coming up. Okay. So the lawsuits, we talked about these last week. There's one that was already settled out for I think it was close to $240 million, right? There is another one that's going on now, right? 10 more schools have been named as defendants, right? This is my hope that all of this stuff kind of disappears and that people and the colleges and the financial aid system become more honest, become more kind of transparent. Okay. So we'll keep track of kind of how that is going there. Okay. Now, this is new news. Okay. Not fake news, right? This was on, I believe this was CBS, right? On their personal finance area. This is the highlight. Okay. Or this is the headline. Okay. It says FAFSA rollout is on track despite remaining unresolved issues. Education department says. How can something be on track if there's still unresolved issues? I don't get it. Okay. So my comment here is, what the heck? What's going on? Right. As many of you know, there was a soft launch, and it wasn't even a soft launch. It's not, it was like it was available to everybody. They selected a few select schools, right? And they said, hey, can you guys be our testers for our launch? What ended up happening is that, well, there's a lot of problems, right? So let's read here real quick. Yet there are still many unresolved problems. This is taken directly from the article, some of which also plagued last year's college aid application cycle. If you were here with me last year, then you know last year was a complete beep show. Okay. Now it says as of October 29th, the government FAFSA issues page lists 22 unresolved issues, down from 25 a few weeks ago. I laugh at that. Okay. Now they said that it's down from 25 a few weeks ago. Like, okay, so from the 15th to the 29th, they have solved three issues. But they have been working on this and since August, right? That's when they kind of told us about the delay that's going to come up. So over the course of 3 months, they fixed three issues. Congratulations, Department of Education and US government. Okay. That is one fix a month. So looking at that track record, that means that we only have 22 months to go until we can file the class of 2025's first financial aid year. Okay. Now, I'm sure they'll pick it up, or here's what I really think is going to happen. They're just going to release it with all of the problems, and then they're just going to run into the same problems again. Okay. So I laugh, right? Because, well, crying's not going to help us. Okay. So we'll have to deal with kind of like the aftermath of them not being able to fix the issues once it actually comes out. Okay. But for class of 2025 families, right? Or if you have a transfer student that is transferring, and that's getting their applications ready this year, just know that there are unresolved issues which can affect your financial aid. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about loans. Okay. So we talked about it a little bit last week because we talked about it in the context of like different ways to pay for college. Now, last week, I didn't really talk about which loans were best, right? But in like talking about loans and like which ones are best and what to take, realistically, you have to take the loans that you need, right? But if there is an option, right, to not or to kind of like take a minimal amount of loans, this is the one that you should be taking. Okay. So before we kind of get into which one you should be taking, again, I wanted to make sure that people understand where loans come from. There are two main sources of loans. One is the federal government. Okay. Or actually, there's kind of three, right? Some are from the federal government, right, which is the main lender for most people, right? Some loans are even provided by your college, right? Usually, if there's a loan offered by your college, it's like a 0% loan, and it doesn't really accrue interest. There's no reason not to take it. And then the third is private lenders, right? Think Sallie Mae or SoFi, College Avenue student loans. There's a lot of different ones that have private loans, okay? But right? The loan that you should be thinking about, right? And there's all these different types of loans: student subsidized loan, unsubsidized loan, parent plus loans, this loans, that loan, right? The only one you should really be thinking about is the subsidized loan. Okay. The amount of the subsidized loan changes as the kind of like years go on. As a freshman, it's around $3,500. As a sophomore, $4,500. As a junior or senior, $5,500. Okay. Now, why do I say that the subsidized loan is the one that you should be taking? It's because it's the one that does not accrue interest. Okay. Now, it's in the name, right? So what is actually being subsidized by the federal government is the interest on that loan. Okay. So over the course of 4 years, if you're eligible for all of the kind of subsidized loans, it should be about $19,000, right? You won't be paying interest on this, okay, while you are in school. Okay. But again, which one is the best? The best one is going to be the subsidized loan. It is a smaller amount, right? But here is kind of the real kicker. Repayment does not start until 6 months after graduation or leaving school. So there's a lot of different situations that can happen. Your student might go to school for 2 years and then, might decide, oh, you know what, I'm going to travel the world. Okay, well, 6 months after they leave school, they'll have to start repaying their loan. Okay. Or they might graduate, get a job, and then they might repay their loan that way. There's different kind of situations, but if you do have questions about it, please let me know. Okay. Now, the positive here is that if your student is headed to professional school or graduate school, right, the loans and their interest will be deferred as long as they are in school half time. Okay. So what that means is this. Let's say that your student is, thinking about going to medical school or law school. Okay. Let's say that they, prep their senior year of college, and then they turn in their applications, they get accepted. So they will graduate in May, right? And then summer will roll by, right? The loan payments haven't started yet because it's only 3 months out from when they graduated or ended school. And then you tell them that you are reapplying or like re-going to school starting in August or September, right? That means that the interest on your loan is now deferred again. Okay. So again, that's kind of one of the positives of of kind of federal loans in general. Okay. But more specifically, the subsidized loan, well, the interest is not accruing while you are being deferred. Okay. So just keep that in mind. Okay. So here's the biggest takeaway from today. Okay. The takeaway is this: loans are not great, but they're sometimes necessary, right? If your family needs them to bridge the gap, then you need them. Okay. But if you have to take them, you need to understand what type of loan you're taking and what the interest rate is, right? Origination fees do exist in federal loans and private loans and every type of loan, right? And you have to understand that over the course of paying back this loan, how much you're actually going to pay back, right? Last kind of last week, right? I went over the capitalization of the loan, right? And the interest and so on and so forth. And this is the calculation that I came to. So if you take $50,000 a year over the course, of 4 years of college, then the amount of money that you have actually borrowed is close to, $200,000. Okay. Now, over the course, let's say that you make just the minimum payments that are, required, and you keep paying that back over a 30-year period, after which your loans kind of disappear, right? If you do that, you're going to be paying back more than $500,000 in loan repayment. Okay. So loans aren't great. So if there's any way to minimize them, that's what we should be looking to do. Okay. Now, here is the part that I'm really excited about today, and it is the real talk section. Okay. One of the things that I want to make sure that we do today is be a little bit interactive, right? I want parents, students that are here, right, to kind of like ask questions. I want them to kind of, tell me what you think, okay? And so there will be a little pieces here and there where, we can kind of make sure that we are doing that, okay? So have your kind of like, keyboards open so that we can kind of make sure that we are kind of doing this back and forth, okay? So I want to kind of tell you about the families that I've talked to during the course of my week, month, year, so on and so forth. Okay. So our families, okay, our families are like the Bay Area. I live in the Bay Area, right? I live in the East Bay of this very diverse area. Okay. The families that I talk to are just as diverse as the number of languages that are spoken, the number of cultural backgrounds that are represented in the Bay Area, right? It is plenty, okay? And the way that they have saved is all different, right? Some students, right, and some families have been saving before their kids were even born, knowing that they were going to have children. Others, they started later, like maybe a couple years ago. Others haven't started at all, right? They just kind of have a savings account. It's like, yeah, well, it's there, but we don't really know what it's for, right? So everyone's in a different boat, okay? And so the information that I want to provide today kind of touches on all of those different kind of families, right? Whether you're really prepared or less prepared, right? Hopefully after this, you understand how you do need to prepare, okay? So the first piece that I want to talk about is the 529 or educational kind of like savings account, okay? One of the ways that a lot of our families have saved is using an educational savings account called a 529. Okay. But I do want to discuss this a little bit further so that people understand this. Okay. So first off, right, this is our first interactive piece. Okay. And in the chat, I do see that someone wanted to see kind of the FAFSA recording. So if you're one of our coaching families, reach out there. If you're one of our Facebook families, reach out in the Facebook. Coach Joanna should be on that. Go ahead and reach out to us via Facebook Messenger or Discord. We will make sure that you do get that recording, okay? So I want to make sure that families are kind of staying engaged, right? So if you do have a 529, can you put 1 in the chat for yes? And if you don't have a 529, can you put 2 for no? Okay, I'm seeing answers coming in now. I see a bunch of ones. I see a 2, another 2, 1, 2, 2, 2, 1, 1. Okay, we have a bunch of it seems that roughly half and half. Okay, so let me tell you the pros, the cons. Okay, so the 529 was an ingenious plan by I don't know who, government officials and people in education to help people save money for college, right? The original kind of like mission behind the 529 was to help lower income families save enough money so that they could go to their local state school. Now, if we think about the local state school, what they were really hoping that you could save up over the course of the 18 years before your student went off to college was $30,000. Okay. Think about it. At the kind of CSU that is closest to you, I'm in California, so I'll talk about the CSUs. The CSUs, they're about $7,000, $7,500 per year. Multiply that by 4, that's 30,000. That's what you were supposed to save. Now, the 529 was a little misunderstood. And you also have to remember that your financial person, every time they sell you a product, they're making a commission. So even higher income families were kind of like sold these 529s. I know families that have 100,000, 200,000, 300,000, $400,000 in a 529. Okay. Now, why does this become a problem? Well, for families that have saved $500,000 or $250,000 in a 529, well, they're kind of set. They kind of paid for college on their own, right? But what they didn't expect is that their preparation would actually come to bite them in the butt. Okay. Here's what I mean by that. And I've explained this before in other trainings. The 529 is a great vehicle for families to save, right? But what happens when you get to financial aid and the college admissions process is that when they see that you have a 529, just to make it easy, let's say that you have $40,000 in a 529. When you get to college time and you fill out your financial aid forms, one of the questions that they ask is, do you have a 529 or educational savings account? Okay. If you say yes, they ask you how much is in it. And when you answer that question, let's say that the school was going to give you $25,000 in kind of like financial aid free money. They're going to see that you have a 529 and they see that you have $40,000. What they do is they divide that by four because most kids graduate college in 4 years, and they see that you can spend $10,000 for 4 years of for each year of college. Okay. Now, what does that do to your financial aid? Where it was once that you were going to get $25,000, they see that you can pay $10,000 out of your own pocket. They're going to reduce your aid from 25,000 down to 15 and plug your $10,000 hard-earned money into that slot. Okay. Now, for those that answered one to this question, you might be shivering in your boots. Okay. So here's the thing. Okay, so we have a question here. It says, what if you have only one account for both children? Do they calculate the same? So if you have multiple, so there's two different ways that people set up their 529s. One is that they just have one general account for multiple children, right? Or that each student has their own account with their own money in it. Okay. So if you have a kind of situation where you have a 529, right? And you have both students on it, it really depends on how much of a jerk the college wants to be. Because if they ask you for proof of your 529 and they see that your 529, instead of having $40,000 because you had $80,000, $40,000 for each kid, right? They see that you have 80, they might decide to divide 80 by 4. Okay. So it really depends. Okay. Because again, the other child might not be in college yet. Okay. So it is something to keep in mind. It is better to have everything separated out. Now, going back to the point of like those families that kind of selected one, yes, we do have a 529. Okay. One of the things that I have been kind of like trying to impress on our audience is that there are ways around it. Okay. So one of the ways around the 529 question is, well, the biggest one. Okay. Just a couple years ago, the government created a loophole in the system. And that loophole was that if the 529 is held by a grandparent, it does not affect the student's financial aid. So it doesn't matter if there's $10,000 in the 529 or if there's $10 million in the 529. If your family, if they're going to give you money, they're going to give you money. The 529 has nothing to do with your financial aid calculation. Okay. Now, for those that marked, no, I don't have a 529. Okay. Here's kind of like what you need to plan for, right? Obviously, everyone needs to know about what kind of like the college costs are. We just had a training about 3 weeks ago about what college actually costs. But just to give you a very quick summary of that, right? The state schools, right? The CSUs in California, they cost about $30,000 to $32,000 a year, right? The UC system costs about $40,000 to $45,000 a year. Let's just call it in the middle, 42.5, right? And private schools are anywhere between $85,000 and $95,000 a year. Okay, those are the general costs. When I'm talking about costs, I'm not just talking about tuition. I'm talking about tuition, room and board, books, transportation, miscellaneous fees, etc., etc., etc. Okay, so the 529, while a great idea, right? For a lot of middle and middle upper class and upper class families, it has become a tool that actually limits your access to a lot of financial aid resources. Okay. So that's what I wanted people to know. Okay. The next thing that I wanted people to know is that a lot of the families that I talk to are middle or higher income earners. Okay. I'm not just talking to families that are kind of like, below 60,000, below 50,000, below 80,000. Most of the families that I talk to are anywhere between the 100K mark, right, to around 500K, right? And for over 75% of the families I consult with and work with every year, most of them do not think that they were quote unquote eligible for financial aid, even though they got it. Okay. Obviously, now they know, right? They tell their friends. Every year, we have more and more and more families flooding in saying, "Oh, yeah, I heard about you from whoever, right? I heard about you from, this family or that family, right?" So, a lot of people walk in with a little skepticism. They walk out with a pocket full of cash, or at least they don't need to take any extra cash out of their pocket. Okay. Another kind of big thing that kind of people misunderstand in California, and again, every state is different. I'm just talking about California here, is that many people think that their earnings might be protected, right? So it's like it doesn't really count as their like personal income because they have a business, right? That is not the case in most scenarios. For most organizational modes, right? Whether it's a sole prop or you're just doing, a side business at home, or you have an LLC, your income is passed through to your personal income tax. Okay. So it will show. Okay. The only way to shield that income from your personal taxes is to have something called a C Corp. Okay. A C Corp is like its own entity, whereas a sole prop or LLC is just like another kind of like person that is doing business on your behalf and with your name. Okay. So remember that you're just because you have a business, right? And again, business can be sole prop, LLC, S Corp, C Corp, right? And a lot of people think S Corp's protected too, but S Corps do not, right? But the only way to protect your kind of income is from a C Corp. Okay. Rental properties. This is one that has been more prevalent recently in the families that I've talked to. A lot of people come into our consultation saying, yeah, like it's always this. Yeah, we just kind of want to see what the possibilities are, but we know we're not going to get it because we have a rental house, right? And I'm like, why does that matter? Right? So people think that having a primary residence, right, and a rental disqualify you from financial aid. That is not the case. This is how I want you to think about the things that you own, okay? The tumbler you got from Starbucks, you own that. You paid in full, okay? The t-shirt on your back, right? As long as you have paid off your credit card bill for that month, that is something you own, okay? But if you still have a mortgage, if you're still financing something, is that really yours or is it actually the bank's, right? That is how I want you to think about other things that you're still paying off. Okay. It's still the bank's. Okay. So that's how I want you to think about it. All right. So here's what I propose. What should you do? You should be making sure that you are ready. Okay. I gave you some of the things that you should be thinking about now. Okay. So the strategies to maximize your financial aid, they're there. And I'm going to try to share them every single week. Right. Most of all, what I really implore everyone here to do is sign up for a consultation. Okay. It's never too early. Right. This is what I tell our parents that are coming in eighth grade, ninth grade, 10th grade right now, and they're having consultations. Well, if you sign up right now, you're locking in your price with us. In about 2, 3 months, right? If you're like a junior or a sophomore right now, our prices will be going up. And so unfortunately, right, I'm not going to be able to offer the same pricing at the end of the year that we're having now. Okay. So I want to make sure that everyone has that opportunity to talk to me to see what the opportunities are. And during our consultation, I do see a bunch of families here that are already part of our program, right? They're just here to kind of learn more about it, right? And make sure that they're on the right track. I also see people that I've talked to that didn't sign up, right? But the one thing that I do suggest that you do is sign up for that consultation. I put the link in the chat right now. Okay. So let's keep going on here, right? Success stories. I've been sharing these for the past 2 weeks, right? But a school like UPenn, right, costs $93,000. This is a real life scenario, right? Family of five, $326,000. I was able to get them $44,000 in free money. The cost for this family to go to UPenn was the cost to go to a UC. Okay. This is not made up, right? UCLA, this was the family size. I was able to save them $18,000 a year. They're going to UCLA per quarter, they're paying about $6,000. That's it. Okay. Finally, my alma mater, right? The Claremont Colleges, right? Uh, it costs around $90,000 to go. I was able to get this family $57,500. They're going to a private school, right? For less than it costs to go to a CSU. Okay. So keep these things in mind. It is not impossible. Look at the incomes that they were at. This family was at 225. This family was at 193. This family was at 326. Your income does not disqualify you. Well, let me qualify that, right? If your income is seven figures, I cannot help you. Okay. So I might be able to give you some tips and tricks and kind of like tell you where to look for other sources of money, but I won't be able to necessarily help you with the institutional aid that I am talking about here. Okay. So, oh, why is it not clicking? All right. We have gotten to the end of the presentation for people that are watching the recording. Okay. So I wish you guys all a good night, right? It's getting chilly outside. I hope everyone has a good Halloween tomorrow. And I will talk to you guys soon. Everyone have a great night.